about strategic thinking. So what's the difference between strategic planning and strategic thinking? Hard question. Strategic planning is the plan. There's a deliverable. Does that make sense? Strategic planning is, we're having a meeting at 3 o'clock to talk about goals and objectives for next year. Let's talk about our strategy for the year. What's the budget? What do we need to do? Can you see what I'm doing? Strategic thinking is like thinking outside the box. It's a mindset. So strategic thinking you do every day. Strategic planning is an activity. There's a deliverable. Strategic thinking, you could wake up in the morning and be a strategic thinker. You develop it within yourself. So you can see where I'm going with this is a lot of these, you are accountable. You are in charge of where you go. You can either follow what everybody does. You can do the same thing you've done all the way through and not change anything. You can watch people and just copy what people, you cannot challenge. You cannot ask questions. And you will not be a strategic thinker. A strategic thinker says, why does it need to be like that? That's a really good question. Why did you do that? Why are you doing it that way? Because it works. Because it's fast. Because it's this. Because it's that. Does that make sense? So strategy planning is a process that leaders undertake to discuss and define vision. Vision, strategy, objectives, and goals is strategic planning. Strategic thinking, though, is thinking differently, critically, outside the box. How can this be done differently? How can this be done better? And you can see innovation comes from that. That's how innovation arises, from that type of thinking. Can we encourage it in our employees and our teams? Yes. With one word, why? Ryan, why have you done that? Why do you do it that way? Why do you think that's a really good thing to do? What made you think that was appropriate? Can you see what I'm doing? Why? And then the second part is there a better way of doing it? What do you think? We don't often say that, do we? What do you think? So Renee, what do you think? And she'll say this and this and this. Go and do it and come back and let's discuss. So it does take more time, yes. But can you see it needs to take more time because you're developing someone. You've got two choices. You could either do everything yourself in the way that works, in the quickest way possible, and you do it, or you can actually develop people and grow yourself as well. So there's two choices you have there. But then I find it funny when people complain that they're so snowed under, I'm so snowed under, I can't delegate, I'm so busy. And you often look at, do you know they say, research shows if we were to do an analysis, 20% of your time is fat. I would cut fat from 20% of your day. All of us, me included. At least about 20% of our day is fat that you could cut by not thinking strategically. So we've got a video, but it's a developable skill. Developable meaning you can develop it within yourself. We'll talk about how. The process of determining the direction that you take to achieve your vision. So it's a way of thinking, a mindset. So it's not something you just learn. It's like you learn to be healthy, yeah? You learn to think strategically. You learn to think outside the box. It needs work. You need to keep working at it. Let's watch a little video that'll maybe help us to look at how we can do this.
Do you get it? Translation, are you strategic? How often have you overheard a group talking about a leader and saying, he just doesn't get it? Do they say that about you? Well, are you tactical or strategic? Does it even matter? 4 separate studies on leadership published in the Wall Street Journal, Chief Executive Magazine, HR Magazine, and the American Management Association all showed that the #1 most valued skill in leaders today is strategic thinking. Unfortunately, recent data published in the Harvard Business Review shows only 23% of US executives are strong at strategic thinking. Couple that with the fact that bad strategy is the #1 cause of bankruptcy, and you have a deadly combination. So yes, the ability to think strategically is essential for individuals and organizations. The real question is, how can we continually sharpen our strategic thinking skills to not just survive, but to thrive? The fact is, most managers are now required to be more successful with fewer resources. All managers have resources, time, talent, and capital to varying degrees within their organizations. So technically, all managers are strategists. The reality, however, is that not all managers are good strategists. Herein lies the pearl of great opportunity. The deeper you can dive into the business and resurface with strategic insights, the more valuable you'll become to your organization. Strategic thinking is defined as the generation of insights on a continual basis to achieve advantage. Strategic thinking is different than strategic planning. While strategic thinking is the generation of insights, strategic planning is the channeling of those insights into an action plan to achieve goals and objectives. A key distinction between strategic thinking and strategic planning is that strategic thinking should occur on a regular basis as part of our daily activities, while strategic planning occurs periodically, quarterly, semi-annually, or annually. You've likely noticed during your daily encounters with bosses, colleagues, direct reports, customers, suppliers, and other individuals that strategic thinking comes in varying degrees, ranging from brilliant to non-existent. To help understand the concept of strategic thinking, I've taken the results of research with managers from 154 companies and have identified 4 types of strategic thinkers. 2 criteria to consider as you evaluate an individual's ability to think strategically are the impact of insights and the frequency of insights. Using the analogy of underwater diving, there are 4 types of strategic thinkers. The first type is the beach bum. Like a beach bum, this manager mentally lounges around and doesn't really contribute any insights to the business. The second type of strategic thinker is the snorkeler. This type of manager skims the surface of issues. They're the first one to wave their hand in the air and say, "We have a problem," but don't offer any potential solutions. The third type of strategic thinker is the scuba diver. Like a scuba diver, when these managers are equipped with the right tools and instruction, they can come up with strategic insights. The final type of strategic thinker is the free diver. A free diver can dive underwater to depths of 800 feet on a single breath. These managers generate new and impactful insights for the business on a regular basis. The research shows only 3 out of every 10 managers are highly strategic or at that free diver level. The reality is most people can't hold their breath for more than 1 minute and 30 seconds, but the world record for a free diver holding his breath is 11 minutes and 35 seconds. So why is there such a big difference? Free divers have learned and practiced breathing techniques. They've learned how to use their resource, oxygen, more effectively than the rest of us. In business, strategic thinking is your ability to use your resources, time, talent, and budget more effectively than the competition. To help managers at all levels think strategically, I've developed the Strategic Thinking Disciplines Framework. The 3 disciplines of strategic thinking are acumen, the generation of key business insights, allocation, focusing resources through trade-offs, and action, executing strategy to achieve goals. Discipline number 1 is acumen. One of the interesting paradoxes of strategy is that in order to elevate one's thinking to see the big picture, one must first dive below the surface of the issues to uncover insight. A strategic insight is a new idea that combines 2 or more pieces of information or data to affect the overall success of the business and lead to competitive advantage. An iceberg illustrates a universal phenomenon when it comes to insights. If the iceberg represents the body of insights for a market, too often companies battle one another using information represented by the tip of the iceberg, which is readily available to everyone. Hidden below the surface are insights represented by the largest portion of the iceberg, which are the more difficult to see and more valuable to use. The acumen question: what's the key insight driving this initiative, project, or activity? Discipline number 2 is allocation. While it's one thing to have a neatly written strategy on paper, The truth is the actual or realized strategy of an organization is a result of the resource allocation decisions made by managers each day. Therefore, it's critical to have a firm understanding of resource allocation and how to maximize its potential for your organization. With multi-billion-dollar companies going through bankruptcy on a regular basis, it's evident that having the most resources guarantees nothing. It's how we allocate resources that truly matters. Once the insights have been generated through the acumen discipline, one is the key ingredient in making resource allocation decisions. The definition of strategy begins with the intelligent allocation of limited resources. Resource allocation is at the core of strategy. Discussions of strategy boil down to how to allocate limited resources to maximize business potential. The allocation question: what trade-offs will I make to focus resources? And finally, the third discipline is action. It's often assumed that once a sound strategy has been formulated, the execution of the strategy will take care of itself. Research seems to indicate otherwise. A survey of more than 400 companies published in Training and Development magazine showed 49% of business leaders report a gap between their organization's ability to articulate a strategic vision and their effectiveness in executing that vision. The action question: what actions can I take to achieve advantage? Most books and training programs only address the first 3 levels of strategy: corporate, business unit, and functional. But
thank you. Okay. Are you the beach bum, the snorkeler, the scuba diver, or the free diver? Which of the 4? Can anyone see themselves in one of those 4? Obviously, no one wants to be the beach bum. Like, you never get people in a group saying, yes, I'm a beach bum. But honestly, where would you sit? What do you think? Anyone? What would determine where you sat?
Would you say it varies from task to task? Because
Maybe.
on some tasks, you know, I can see being a snorkeler where it doesn't warrant going deeper, but then I can see other times and opportunities where it does sort of warrant that deeper investigation.
And other times it's nice being a beach bum.
Oh yeah, if you don't need to, you know, if it works well and it's effective, you know, sometimes good enough is what's
Enough,
needed.
yeah. What was your name?
Brittany.
So Brittany, what Brittany's saying is it possible that we're all of them and we alternate? We slip in and out of them as we need to. So the task and the challenge that we have in front of us maybe determines the demands on our life, determine what we do. Also maybe the people around us, who the people involved. But I think that we do have a tendency as people to be drawn to one or the other as well. There are people we know who are lazy. And you would not say that they're freak divers, do you know what I mean? There are people who will take the easy way out in every situation. There are people who will spend ages analysing. You can also do it too much. Can you see the other side of it? One of the biggest questions in coaching I get asked is, how can, you know, with my decision making, I take ages, like how can I be more decisive, you know? So being able to say there are times, as you said, I've just got to cut, that's it. So you can be both. So how would you determine which of those is appropriate at any given time?
Time constraints play a big.
How much time I have, 1.
What your resources are. If you're
Excellent.
If you need to get a job done, you know, it's a simple tax return and you need to get it done quickly, you're not going to spend
Hours of it.
ages looking at Joe Bloggs' tax return thinking, how can I do this better? You're just going to go,
Okay.
you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Okay.
done.
So how much time I have, what resources I have, how important is it to me? Does that make sense?
Benefit out of it.
Yeah.
Sorry?
What is the benefit out of it?
What is the benefit? Yeah, what's the benefit? What is the... So we're talking about being able to be agile. This is about being able to be agile. Emotional agility, you've all heard of emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is the intelligent use of emotions, being able to use emotions in an intelligent way. Emotional agility means that I'm adaptable. So in this situation, I do this. In another situation, I do that, because I think we have a tendency to be a certain way all the time. We get stuck, don't we? We get stuck in being a certain way. So what this is trying to say is that you can be whatever you need to be at any given time, and it's in your power to change that. So being a strategic thinker is a choice. So how can I be more of a strategic thinker? So if you know that strategic thinking is a mindset, it's a developable skill and it's a mindset. And if you know that it helps with goals, objectives, it's vision orientated, yeah? Like, I don't think it would work, or maybe it would, but I can't see how, that you would be a strategic thinker in whether I eat one slice of bread or two. There are some things that really do not need strategic thinking. But you could say, I'm trying to lose weight or I'm trying to be fit. You know, there are options. You know, you talked about benefits, but there are some things that do not need strategic thinking. So it's vision orientated things, future. How can you be more of a strategic thinker?
Self-awareness.
100%. You need to know yourself well. And I think that's a really good, you need to also be honest about that self-awareness. So self-awareness means looking at myself and saying, how important this is to me? Does it line up with my values? Am I able to do it? Is it realistic? Yeah. Do I have the money? Do I have the resources? Emotional intelligence has 4 pillars. Pillar 1 is knowing myself. Pillar 2 is managing myself. Pillar 3 is knowing other people, and then managing other people, which is relationships. So knowing me and managing me, knowing others, managing others. So pillars 1 and 2 is what you're talking about. What was your name? Matt. So pillars 1 and 2, knowing myself. If you know yourself, you can manage yourself. Does that make sense? When you're out of control, you know people you're a little bit scared of, because like if they get angry, they'll sort of be a bit too angry. Or you're not sure, it's unpredictable how they'll respond. Self-awareness is managing yourself. I know I respond badly in that way, so what can I do about it? So one of the things we do in coaching is, if you know that you snap or you are not polite in terms of your initial responses, you create a buffer. So watch this. So you say something to me, I'm your manager, right? You say, I can feel I'm getting furious. And I'll say, will you excuse me for a moment? I'll just get my glass of water and come back. That glass of water and come back has calmed me down. It gives me 20 seconds as a buffer. Does that make sense? That's self-awareness. So developing self-awareness is an excellent way, as Matt said. Really good way to develop that strategic thinking. What else? What's another way? Self-awareness.
I think that what comes with self-awareness is questioning yourself, questioning, like you said earlier, why you decided to do this, why this has become your default.
Yeah, being curious, a lost skill. So being curious, we've said it before, little kids are so curious, aren't they? Why is that like that? Why have you done that? Where's that come from? Why did you say that? Why did you do this? At some point in our teenage years, we stop doing that. Correct? And you just accept the way the world is. You just stop. You stop asking questions. Possibly, I think, because of wanting to be accepted and fitting in and all of that. And also being told, shut up. Stop asking questions. And so a lot of that. So we stop. It's a skill that we need to recultivate, as is gratitude. When I said gratitude is a really important skill. People, one of the questions I get asked the most is, how can I be happy? It sounds funny, but it's one of the questions people ask all the time. How can you be happy? What does it mean to be happy? How could I be happier? The best answer is learn to be grateful. It seems to be really closely linked. So learning gratitude seems to be really, really closely linked to people feeling joy as well. Being curious is like that too. Being curious means you're interested in other people. Like, for example, do you listen because you want to understand people, or do you listen because you're just waiting for your turn to talk? So that's the curiosity. I'm interested in you. I want to hear what you have to say. That's asking questions. One more. Learning, education, growth, all of that, good. You can read books, you can educate yourself. You can ask questions again. You can find people as role models as well. And there are tools. So there are tools. You've all heard of SWOT analysis, PESTLE analysis. So you can use tools to become a little bit more strategic. So a SWOT analysis would look at really simple quadrants on a page: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It helps you to be strategic. Can you see that? To think strategically, because it's making me think of opportunities. What are the threats? What could I do? What are options? Another one is a PESTLE analysis, which is political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental. It breaks it into areas. So these are really good tools that we can use in terms of helping support us to be more strategic. Yeah? What's one way we could be more strategic tomorrow? To wake up and come into work on a Friday's day? What could you do tomorrow to wake up and just decide that you're going to be more strategic?
What could I do?
Yeah, I don't mean tasks, I mean to think strategically. So you wake up in the morning and I've said to you, our goal is all of us to be strategic thinkers. We said like cultivate self-awareness, right? Tell me one thing that you can do.
Change your routine?
Yes. Do you know how simple that is? A really good one. Do you know even driving a different way to work? Or I always do this in the morning. I always, you know what I mean? Change routine so that you don't get stuck. There's a whole area of psychology called neuroplasticity. Has anyone heard of that? So neuroplasticity is how habits are formed. So the brain has pathways, neural pathways. You know when you do something a lot, watch, this is what happens, right? Until a groove is formed. And that groove becomes a habit, and it's really hard to change that. So neuroplasticity is being able to change a lot of that, how to wipe and change and create new, because can you see a lot of our habits are negative? So we want to create positive habits and not get stuck in the negative habits. So when Stav says change your routine, what you're doing there is you're helping to create a positive new habit.
Yeah.
So as well as Matt's self-awareness, creating positive habits by choice, not habits like smoking, biting my nails, whatever, you know, any of those things that are a lot of those unconscious type habits. So you choose your habits and they're positive. Going to the gym, eating healthily, being self-aware, reading a book, they're all positive. What's one more? Tell me one more. How can I think strategically from tomorrow morning?
I think everybody could do well with listening more.
Excellent. Developing your listening skills. And then you could say questioning skills as well. Empathy is a really important point there. Attending. You know what? In the next session, we're talking about listening skills. So micro-counselling skills are skills that, like a counsellor or psychologist would use. They're called micro-counselling because they're the mini skills in counselling. One of the most important is called attending skills. Attending is being present. You know, how many times you've been on the phone with someone and you've done 3 things at the same time as being on the phone? How many times someone walks up to your work area and you're typing while you listen to them? That's not attending. That's not attending. You're sending a message, yeah? That what I'm doing is more important than you. So 100% listening, developing attending skills. Attending skills is stop what you're doing and focus on what's in front of you, even if it takes 20 more seconds to finish what you had been doing originally. Make sense? But it's attending. It makes the person feel important. It develops a relationship. It's win-win-win-win all the way through. And it helps you be strategic. And one more. So we have develop self-awareness, change your routine, develop listening skills. I gave you one, develop questioning skills. What's one more?
Accepting your weakness.
Be aware of your strengths and weaknesses. So it's a really big area. A lot of work's being done in strengths-based training, strengths-based coaching. So being aware of strengths and positive habits is really, really important, yeah? You know, they've done research and they show, we've all had conversations, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses? And people will say you have to fix your weaknesses. They've done a lot of research that shows if I get you to work on your strengths, the weaknesses improve on their own. Do you know why? Because of the mindset that you develop. It means everything lifts. So we do it the wrong way around. Instead of focusing on You know, you need to be aware of them, but being strengths focused means that they'll improve because you're engaged. That's why, because you're engaged. Good. So thinking outside the box is saying, why does it have to be that way? Why do we do it that way? Is there a different way that's better, quicker, faster, more productive? Why do I think a really good question is about yourself, about why do I do that? Why do I do that? Why do I always do that? Is it something I want? Does it align with my values? Strategic thinking, following on from that, is the developable skill of being able to think in a different way so that you can get a different outcome. There's a really good quote, I'll end with, there's a really good quote, Henry Ford, I think, that said, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. It's really true. Don't complain. If you do what you've always done, you'll get the result that you've always got. You need to do something different. They did, there's a Harvard study with there's a Harvard elite, Harvard business students, right? They did a study, a survey, and asked it was one question. They said, do you do the minimum to get through your day? So whether it's study or work, whatever it is, do you do the minimum? It was really simple. Do you do your minimum to get through the day? 85% responded yes. That's at an elite university that's considered one of the best in the world. You know what I found interesting from that? You can sort of go, oh wow, that's really terrible, 85% said that they do the minimum. What's positive about it though? What could you take away from that?
You're honest.
Good that the honesty, yeah, but what else? There's a really important little thread you could pull there in terms of self-awareness, Matt. Tell me, can you think?
Room for improvement.
If 85% do the minimum, I only have to do one thing more and I'm in the 15. Can you see where that goes? Wake up 5 minutes earlier. Come to work 1 minute earlier. Do that extra phone call, make that extra phone call. One thing only, small, puts you in the 15%. Because 85% have said, I don't care. I'll do the minimum just to get through my life and my day. Can you see where it goes? That's strategic thinking. We're not talking fly space shuttles and become an astronaut. We're saying simple things. Go to the gym 1 time. Eat a healthy meal 1 time. Practice mindfulness 1 time. Have an honest conversation and give someone feedback 1 time. Just do one extra thing in your day and you're in the 15%.